Some are definitely good. Most of them are probably not very good. Uh, Starting off here with the winged leather shoes, your base duration of haste is increased by 50%. So if you have a 10% haste, that goes to 15% haste. And that's not how you draw a 5. And this is F tier, like beyond F tier, like F minus tier. Like it's probably the worst artifact in the game. And I'm gonna move on and not talk about that more. But they probably could have made this a dodge for a haste or a block for a haste, and it would have been okay. But they did not. Uh, it's not 15%. What do you mean it's not 15%? It's increasing it by adds time, not percentage. Even worse. Wait, it's time? Oh my god, that is awful. So if it lasted, no way. That is terrible. So if you had a 7-second haste, it would go to like 10.5 seconds? Wait, that's even worse. Who made this? It's actually the worst artifact in the game. It's worse than Ghoul Gloves. The Unmoved. This is interesting because it works versus stuff that displaces you, obviously. So it's good versus Grab. Good versus, what do you call it? Path of Destiny. This is good versus Reap, but it doesn't give you Grit. So it's probably not very good. It seems okay, like probably like a mid-tier artifact, like B-ish, but it's not super fantastic. Do I need M3 to drop the cool fire gear with weapons? Yeah, you do. I want some of that for the transmog stuff. B-ish. Yeah, I mean, it's probably B. It's not that good. It's okay. Like if I were to rate it in terms of a tier. Quick draw. You're immune to damage for half a second after you swap weapons. I think most people aren't on one weapon for a long period of time. You're going to accidentally proc this. So I don't think this is actually super good because you can't control it. If it was a different button as a bind, it would actually be pretty good, but because you can't control it, it's not, like, insane. Like, if you're a life staff, when you swap to your rapier, you gain this immunity. So it's, like, not... Yeah, you swap to rapier to escape. I mean, that's, like, the best case, right? You're a life staff, you swap to rapier, and then you use your rapier abilities and you get out. But that means you have to be on your life staff until someone hits you, basically, and then you swap to your rapier as an iframe, and then you do a dodge. So, like, it's okay in that case. It's good for bow VG. Yeah, I could see it being good for ranged as like an iframe, but that's kind of it. And even then, you're going to be getting like a... I mean, it's not ideal. Bow cleanse perk. Yeah, I mean, it's not a cleanse though, it just makes you immune to the damage, right? So you're just not going to take damage for half a second, and you'll take damage after that. If it's a separate button, it'd be really good. Yeah, that's what I think. I don't think it's like super insane. Like this is probably like a mid B tier, like B to B plus. Like you could run it, but it's not like insane and it's kind of awkward to work around. I think it's more likely along the lines of like C plus than like in the B tier. Just because this is really hard to work around, but if you work around it perfectly, maybe B plus. The knee guards, this is probably just better than quick draw to be honest, because this is basically an anti-ranged mechanic. This is like beautiful for OPR specifically, because then you can stack elemental aversion, and then you're kind of set. It's not ideal for PvE because there isn't a lot of ranged physical attacks in PvE, so I don't see it being super used there, but it does have Enchanted Ward, which is kind of nice. So maybe it could be used for that, but I think this is mostly OPR, put elemental aversion on here, and then you're super anti-ranged. I think this is good. It's definitely like a solid like A minus to A tier like artifact. Like it's solid. Like you don't have that like awkward like having to time stuff with the quick draw. It's just gonna passively gonna work. It is base damage, so that's like not ideal, but it's still kind of fine versus most matchups. Ocean's Peace. 2% health, 2% 2 stam, 2 mana per second. This is fantastic. At 20k HP, this is a 400 health per second. And 20k HP for reference is like 350 con. If you have basically all your health, like you're gonna be hitting to around this, like with a like 250 con, like you'll be hitting around 400 health per second. So this is like fantastic, particularly for healer, because then you can actually drop the healthy toast because you don't really need it anymore because you're getting mana passively. Stamina is always nice. Increasing your pot cooldowns is a little bit sketchy. This seems to affect all HP pots, regen pots, serums. I don't believe it affects focus pots. So that's a tech, and I don't believe it's going to affect cleanse pots, but you can't really test that on the PTR. So that's a little bit tricky to tell. But it seems like it's very good for healer in particular, and maybe good for tanks because it gives flat stam per second, and that's very valuable from a tanking perspective. The other thing that this allows you to do is cut hardy. So, I mean, the hardy is like kind of the best part. Like you might be able to drop that because you have this stam per second. You could do a dodge into dodge. Mastermind, just very effective for a few builds. This is like BIS for PvE with Rapier. How do you get the earring? I don't think you can get it yet. It doesn't say where, but it's going to drop somewhere. It's probably going to be in the track, to be honest. It'll probably be in the season track. Like that's like most likely where some of these drops will be, and then some of them will be from open world drops and stuff. But Mastermind is BIS for PvE Rapier, makes this build like even better than it currently is. It's the best build in the game. It's going to be like the best by another margin because it runs a lot of skills that deal damage. So if it's a week that's not silence, this is fantastic for PvE. Otherwise, in terms of PvP, this is really good for VG, really good for Fire Staff. I don't see it being super good for a lot of other builds. It could weirdly be good for Ice Pylon. It should make the Ice Pylon do 13% more damage per hit, which is a little scary. But kind of time will tell about that interaction. Quick Draw Gloves is level 100 reward for Season 4 track on PTR. Okay. Does this work with Void Blade? Void Blade itself is no, it won't. This is good for Flamethrower, part of Fire Staff. I don't think it's good for BB. Because BBs like to auto. If you're doing BB and you want to do, what do you call it? Mortar? Maybe? But, like, that's kind of pushing it. I don't think it's good for BB. But this is still, like, a really good artifact. Like, this is, like an A+. Like, it's just, like, very good for a lot of builds. This could be good with refreshing 4 times, refreshing move, nimble coat with low cooldown reduction melee weapons. Yeah, you could do that. And then you can just spam abilities. Like, any ability spamming build, this is fantastic. Ocean's Peace, I think I forgot to give this a rating. This is like also like A+. It's not game breaking, but it's like very, very good. Boltcaster, I think this is an S tier artifact. You can just go heavy in a pen. And that pen, you can do a headshot. You could have the perk on it because it's like they're not going to be moving. It's a very easy headshot. The perk you put on here, you could put the thing where you get you mitigate armor if you hit a headshot, then it's going to do even more damage. The shirking procs pretty consistently if you're in close quarters. It's going to hit like a truck. This is like a very good artifact, and it's kind of scary. It's going to dominate OPR. I imagine it'll be very good in war. Hopefully it gets reworked before release. Yeah, we'll see. You can also put the... Not that I should be encouraging this, but you could put the Lost Amulet on there, and you could extend this to be a 1-second stun. I would not do that, but you can do that. Most people in PvP are at full HP when you engage them, so it's really good for engaging stuff. A Gladiator. This is kind of your BIS speedrun PvE tank. And that's about it. Not good for PvE, or not good for PvP because you never want to have Fortified Shield Rush on a light build. If you ran this in medium, like maybe you wouldn't probably want to run this in heavy. There's just better options at that point. But it does have Fortified Shield Rush and Diminishing Shield Bash, which is kind of a dead perk on here. So you have like an option to run it, but I don't see this being insane, but it seems like okay. Like this is probably like a B tier artifact for most builds, but specifically for PvP speed running, or sorry, PvE speed running, I think this is like an A plus tier artifact. Like it's a very viable option for a tank, because there are a lot of tanks that run a round shield when they tank because they try to do it in light. They're gonna have to buff the fire staff until it's allowed in M3. AGS obviously couldn't care less about PvP. Yeah, maybe they care about OPR a little bit. The Vengeance. This is your BIS PvE life staff because it gives damage. This is damage. This is damage. This is more cooldowns. So it's just helpful for doing damage. This will apply to your secondary. So if you have a like if you're doing life staff with the Void Blade, like the Void Blade will get the heal effect. So that's nice. So Void Blade basically just does a bunch of damage when you run the Vengeance, which is super great. I don't think outside of PvE it's going to be played at all because it doesn't have Blessed. The reason why I say it doesn't have Blessed, even though you have this random perk, is you have to choose between Blessed and Diamond. And Diamond's just better. So. Deep Freeze. This one is kind of game breaking as well. Unbroken Winds sucks. I would not try to make this work. But people will try. I just would not try to force it. I don't think it's going to work. This frozen, rooted, or chilled enemies take 15% more damage. This applies off of Ice Gauntlet effects that apply the frost-based stuff. So if I look at the Ice Gauntlet specifically, where is my Ice Gauntlet? Here. That will specifically apply, I believe, off of Wind Chill, off of Ice Storm, off of Ice Shower, and I don't believe it applies off of Spike. It doesn't apply off of this. It doesn't apply off of this. So you have three things that could proc that, or the target could be rooted, and then you gain a 15% damage bonus. Super good offhand for BB. It's going to be insane. Fire Staff is going to be good. VG is going to be insane. Like, there's a lot of options for this. Does that IG break BB more than Scorpion did? Yeah. The IG is very, very, very good for BB. Like, this is nuts. So. I think that's the last one. I think we actually went through them all this time. But this is like S tier. Like, it's just very, very good. Vengeance specifically for PvP, or for PvE is S tier. Everything else is F tier. It's only going to be used for PvE. You have to put Bless on the life staff. You can't put a gem slot. Oh, you can't? Yeah, I mean, if you put then you're missing Diamond, right? So you're still missing out on outgoing heals, so it's still bad for PvP. Also, Keen Beacon's not very good in PvP. So, I mean, it's okay, but they decided to give Life Staff like a really bad perk from a PvP wise, and Broken Winds is like the worst possible perk they could have given to Ice Gauntlet. But it's still good because the ability is so good. Like, if it was Mighty Spike, it would be better, probably, because it could be used as a finisher. Pylon's great, this is great, this is great, this is great, and this is like, ew. But, it's okay.